Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, all really helps out the channel. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Boring General 7902 from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit. And before we do get involved with the story, I just want to give you a warning that it does contain talk of cancer, so if you want to skip the story, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you, and let's get started. It's titled, Am I the Arsehole here for getting upset with my family for using money that was meant for my college to fund present and future medical costs? I am 17. I am the youngest of 4. The age gap between our mother and father was fairly large. Our mother passed away from cancer back in 2019. Each of my siblings had their entire college tuition paid in full. Now, because our father has fallen ill, my siblings have taken upon themselves to make sure all of our father's money goes towards his present and future medical costs. Turns out my father made the oldest his power of attorney, and my brother's logic is I can borrow money to go to school. But borrowing for medical care is not as easy. I understand this, but I still find it unfair, especially because all of my siblings make good money. Each of them are driving 100k plus cars. I got upset with my siblings, calling them a bunch of names because they could afford to pay for the care our father needs, yet they don't, and rather screw up my future. Am I the arsehole for snapping and feeling as if my siblings are screwing me over? Edit. For clarity, the money is not part of a college fund or anything like that. It was just money that was saved and set aside for me. Each of us also had the same amount, 150k. Their 150k did go much farther, being older and college being cheaper, but that is a different topic. So, as always, there was some additional information on the back of someone saying, your dad can revoke the power of attorney. OP says, do not think he can, since it's a springing power of attorney, whatever that means. The way my dad explained it to me, it appears he did try. Our old man has a bunch of medical issues, but due to a TBI, he was diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment. I've spoken to them with our dad present, and our dad told them he would want to use the money for my college, but they said that is not in his best interest because then he will have less to fund his own medical costs. It appears as a power of attorney, it is his duty to do what is in the best interest of our father. And covering medical costs appears to trump paying for my college, even if that is what he wishes. Someone says you could try a lawyer. OP says, yeah, my old man spoke with a lawyer when he found out what they were doing, and he was told roughly trying to revoke it would be rough, especially when the one appointed is doing what is in the best interest of my father. Edit. I know not much can be done. I don't know. I probably just made the post for some level of validation that I'm not completely and a total arsehole for how I feel. Sadly, he did speak with a lawyer about this, and the lawyer said my brother could fight it because unfortunately the choice to take money away from his own care to give to me for college could be argued not in his best interest and has a lack of understanding about his condition. The fact that it is already active makes it hard to revoke it without good cause. Someone says selling a car is objectively easier than a loan. OP says, I brought this up, but they brushed it off saying our father should use his money to fund his medical costs for as long as possible. I get the mindset, but why go against what our father wished? He wants to use the money to cover my college education. They took that away from him and myself, all because they do not want to use their own money to cover our dad's medical costs. Someone says they can show how magnanimous they are with their wallets. OP says doubt they will do that. They will just throw back in my face who will fund our dad's care. I don't know why not you guys. Not like you are poor. I will just be called selfish and told I can borrow money for school. They cannot borrow towards for their own in retirement, and our dad cannot borrow for his medical expenses when he has no way to pay it back. We'll most likely never speak to these fucks again. And someone says, well, you can do community college and then transfer. OP says true. I did get into some good schools and I am a year ahead, but I can take 1 year off to figure out my next steps. I will speak with our college advisor and see what is up. But now we're going to go straight to OP's update, which says thank you for the replies. I did want to clear up one thing, since for whatever reason people are thinking I do not care about my father being ill. Of course I do. This is not about that. If my siblings did not have the means, albeit with some sacrifice to cover our father's medical expenses, I would not be here. I would understand that his care comes first. They could afford it. Each of them makes very good money. Hell, the oldest himself owns 7 multi-unit properties. He could most likely afford to cover the care himself without feeling it too much. This is why I'm upset. Even our father is upset because he thought my older brother would understand that what he wants most in life is for all of us to be happy and successful. Please do not think that I'm not upset my father is ill. I am, but this post is not about my father's illness. Thank you for all the suggestions. We'll try one more time to have my father and our family sit in front of his lawyer to see what can be done. My father has already spoken with one, and he has told me that it will be an uphill battle due to his medical issues not exactly being something that does get better, but more so ebbs and flows. So the likelihood of his care levels increasing as time goes on is extremely likely. Even still, I will see if we can come to some agreement. Maybe not pay for everything, maybe just earmark 2 years worth, or provide me a 0 interest loan against our father's assets. If not, I will speak to my school's college advisor and see what can be done. This is in my final year in school. Just hit 17, so I can take the next year off to figure out what can be done. I do have money. I've saved up from my job so I can afford 2 years of community, and hopefully with the AP credit that will lower the cost even further. I just have to speak with the advisor and see if that's the best course of action, or if I should take classes to pad out the GPA and transcript. I also know I'm not entitled to my father's money. The difference is, this is what my father also wants. We're annoyed because my older brother may be within his legal right to do what he is doing, but it hurts because he is also going against the wishes of our father. Either way, thanks for the information and advice. Couple more bits of information. Someone says, how close are you and your siblings? Opie says, would not exactly say close. The age gap between us from oldest to youngest is 25 to 15 years. We grew up vastly different lives. If I had the means, of course I would pay them back, and I would also help pay for our father's care. Slipping the cost across all of us just makes sense. Someone says, your dad living is more important. Opie says, I do care about my father. The thing is, this post is not about my father. If my family did not have the means, I would understand. They do 100% have the means. Would it mean cutting back on stuff? Most likely, but they would not go broke, even more so if they split it between the 3 of them. Each of them do very well for themselves. We do not have to live in a world where our father does not get care, and I do not get the same opportunity they had. This is also why my father is upset. He has other means to cover medical costs. The house, LTC insurance, other investments. My oldest sibling is trying to min-max our father's money so it lasts long as humanly possible. I understand, but it still sucks. And I've got to be honest, from a legal standpoint, I don't think he'd be able to transfer the money anyway because it's not in a trust, it's not in any sort of college fund. Therefore, passing the money over would be a gift, which if he's going to eventually rely on some form of benefit, I don't think you can do. Again, I don't know the legalities behind that. I just know it was a similar thing with my father. Although we're covered by the NHS, to get some of the benefits that my father did receive, you have to be very careful with the money. And a real sad thing is that from what I've seen, I don't know much about US care system and stuff like that, but I've seen some bills of like a broken arm or something like that, and I've seen the cost of that. So, and I feel bad saying it, I just don't think that money is going to last very long anyway, considering the treatment, if it's anything similar to what my father went through. And again, it might not be, I don't know. But what do you guys make of this situation? I got to be honest, the comments were sort of back and forth. Some people understanding, Opie's frustration. Some people, getting it from the family as a whole's point of view and just saying, it's a very, very difficult situation. Other people saying, the brothers should be contributing. They got a lot. They had a free ride, etc. What are your thoughts on this? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. And our next story does come with an update as well from the Raised by Narcissist subreddit from Greed Princess, who says, my parents won't attend my wedding. In 2021, fresh out of college, I moved to a new state for a job. Facing high rent, the Scots, family friends of my parents, offered me their guest house for a mere $300 a month. Little did I know, this seemingly sweet deal would lead to a year of turmoil. The Scots, longtime friends and business partners of my parents, had 3 kids. As soon as I settled in, the Scotts became excessively involved in my personal life, particularly my relationship. The situation took a dark turn as they fabricated scenarios to my parents, accusing me of promiscuity, rarely being home, and even planning to secretly move in with my boyfriend. Their disdain for my boyfriend was palpable, treating him with passive aggression, condescension, and even making derogatory comments about him being adopted. The interference escalated with family meetings where they labeled me as a poor influence on their teenage daughter, criticizing my boyfriend, whom they only met 3 times. And I have to add, my boyfriend and I don't drink or smoke and both have careers. My boyfriend is a perfectly good man and was always respectful to them despite their poor treatment. The dad of the Scott family went to the extent of sharing his marriage problems and lack of sex life, blurring the boundaries of landlord-tenant/inappropriate relationships. The breaking point came when the fridge in the guest house broke, and they insisted I foot the bill for a $900 replacement. Their influence over my parents was significant, as my parents rarely had my back and sided with the Scotts, constantly belittling my boyfriend without reason. By the end of 2022, I decided to move out with some girlfriends of mine, leaving without saying goodbye to avoid further confrontation. Fast forward to the summer of 2023. My boyfriend and I were living together in a new state, and he proposed. To my surprise, when he asked my parents for their blessing, they were supportive and enthusiastic. My parents were even flown out to witness our engagement. As we delved into wedding planning in the fall of 2023, my fiance's parents generously offered to finance the wedding. Strangely, my mother declined involvement in the planning, claiming she hated it. Despite repeated invitations from myself and my future mother-in-law, she insisted we handle everything on our own, a departure from the typical involvement of the mother of the bride. My mother-in-law did fly my mum out to New York for wedding dress shopping, which was fun, but my mother insisted on the trip that this was all she wanted to do. Winter 2023 brought a text from my dad, urging me to invite the Scotts. I respectfully declined, citing the distress it would cause me on our special day. This refusal triggered a nuclear war within the family. My parents, adamant about the Scotts' inclusion, declared that they wouldn't attend the wedding. My dad accused me of starting my happy life by destroying his, and my mother uninvited me to Christmas. In attempts to salvage the situation, I apologized and tried to explain my decision. However, my parents were unreceptive, hurling insults and baseless accusations, claiming my side of the family has been cancelled. My mother then flipped the script and threatened to expose details on social media of my disrespect to family if I didn't show up for Christmas. Despite exchanging Christmas and birthday greetings via text, I've not spoken to them about the situation. The pain of their absence and the harsh words lingers as I approach my wedding day. I'm confused, I'm guilty, I'm in pain. The fallout, all because I refused to invite the Scotts. Now, as always, I'm sat behind a microphone and I'm talking about someone else's life who's living it, who's going through the feelings, the confusing stuff, all the stuff that these people were putting into OP's head, things that's been normalized for OP. So as always, it's very easy for me to say, and OP probably won't see it this way, but this feels like they say in these posts, the trash took itself out. This sounds like a good thing for your wedding. It feels like they're just trying to control your life and they don't like that you're breaking free from that. So, this would be the ultimate for me, that they're not going to turn up to your wedding. Well, fuck them, They've made that decision and I would hold them to it and say, yeah, you decided you're not welcome no more. And just enjoy your wedding stress-free, because it sounds like you deserve it. You've been dealing with a lot of their bullcrap and now it's time to break free from that. But Useful Commission 76 says making derogatory comments about him being adopted, criticizing my boyfriend, belittling my boyfriend. It seems like a perfectly reasonable decision for the boyfriend and his parents, who are the ones financing the wedding, to decline to invite these Scott people. I don't think the bride or her parents have a choice in this matter. OP says, my future in-laws don't want the Scotts there, but they'd be willing to bite the bullet for me because they feel terrible about my parents not attending. They are such good people, but there's no way in hell I'm going to let that happen, especially since they're doing so much for me out of the kindness of their hearts. However, this actually came up in the argument with my parents, and my dad literally said, I didn't have to ask your fiance or his mother for permission to invite who I want to the wedding of my daughter. My parents say the Scotts did everything out of protection. It makes me so angry. Someone asked OP on what their fiance thinks about the situation. OP says, my fiance has been incredibly supportive. Most of all, he just feels terrible for me and feels that I have been put in a lose-lose situation by my parents. Either I invite the Scotts and be absolutely miserable on our wedding, or I don't invite them and my own parents opt to not attend. He also doesn't want the Scotts to attend, but he'd be willing to bite the bullet if I was desperate for my parents to come. However, like many comments below, I don't want to start my life with an ultimatum from my parents. If I cave in now, who knows what they will do in the future? I'm blessed to be marrying someone who is patient, caring, and supportive. OP gives some information on why her parents want the Scotts there and says, the Scotts invest money into my dad's small business and they split ownership 50-50. In the initial text from my parents, my dad said that he has been losing sleep for months thinking about how he's going to tell the Scotts they're not invited to my wedding. I think my dad is afraid that if he doesn't invite them, the Scotts will get pissed and pull out. This is speculation, but if this is the case, then some people are right and this is like a blackmail thing. But I don't want to feel guilty. Why do I have to invite people who give me a visceral reaction of anxiety and stress just because my dad is afraid to tell them no? And we have an update in a moment, but I think so far OP's going down the right path. They recognize, that they can't back down to their parents. We see it a lot in these stories where, the opposite happens and they back down to controlling narcissistic parents and eventually it damages their own relationship. But it seems like OP is going down the right way. So let's cover their update to see what happens next. Context from my original post. At 24 female, I find myself in a heartbreaking situation. My parents won't be at my wedding. The reason? I refuse to invite their friends. Update. I woke up this morning to a bunch of texts from my mother. She demanded that I end my engagement, cancel the wedding, quit my job, and move back to their home. She started saying things like, I know you're unhappy. It's okay. You tried. Now it's time to come home. You have some maturing you need to do. This irks me so much. My parents literally gave their blessing for my marriage 6 months ago. Now they want me to change my entire life because they're mad they didn't get their way. I responded and said this is my life, and if they don't want to respect my decisions, that's on them. But I am in utter shock. I'm financially independent of my family. I have a great job, loving partner. How do narcissistic parents come up with this shit? And like I said, I'm so glad that OP is slowly detaching themselves from the situation. I said it before, but it's easy for me to say all this kind of stuff, but they're living it, they're going through it, they're having to deal with these people, not only their parents, but the Scotts as well, who's trying to constantly manipulate them, control them. It's always easy for, us to say, reading the story, that you need to get yourself out of that situation. But when you're living it, of course, some people, can do it really easily, but it's difficult when things have been normalized. I try to think of my own background and growing up and seeing some families and some people that I still know to this day. And, you can still see that they have this normalized mentality. One example of this girl, same age as me, part of which I, nickname all the time as the Mafia family. And a lot of them all still live in the same house. I'm talking like there's like 4 50, 60-year-olds. And there's a bunch of other people that live on the same street as well. And, they're all, but family kind of thing. And they talk about how much family means to them and their surname, which, used to be big back in the day. And they still sort of live off that name and think they're some sort of kind of hard family, if you like. But at the same time, a lot of them fucking hate each other at the same time. And they're constantly arguing and turning on one another. I was talking to one of my family the other day about a situation that happened when one of the family borrowed a toolbox. It was literally a toolbox and hadn't returned it for some months or something. And it turned out one of the family sold some of the tools within the toolbox. And so one day this car comes steaming up, wheel span into the car park, skidded, and which of course gets everyone's attention when you live around the area that I do. So everyone's poking their head out the window, so, fucking drama's going on. Ooh-wee. And two of this Mafia family jump out the car. One's a massive bloke. I mean, he's a huge dude. and his wife, and she, you know, she just shouts and she's going at them. And the wife gets out the car and she's like giving it all this effing and jeffing and all this kind of thing. And they're sort of like peeking over the back garden fence. And this guy's swinging off the fence panels, which ain't fitted very well because they done it themselves. And, you know, the fence panel comes off. And it's like one of these surreal situations because he's shouting about a toolbox and some sold tools. And it turned into a bit of a saga. But that particular situation, you know, he sort of like pulled off the fence panel, shouted at him, and just like was pointing at him, you get that effing stuff back or that's it. And then got back in the car, wheel span off, you know, and he lived about 20 minutes away. So that interaction, it just seems insane, right? But they still to this day kind of think that sort of shit is normal, which, you know, in reality is just sad, isn't it? Anyway, I've gone absolutely off as usual. I do apologize. Anyway, what do you guys make of this situation? Not mine, the actual wedding situation. What's your advice to OP? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Imagine sun shining, clouds in the sky, and everything is right. Imagine stars lighting up the night, and a shooting star so vibrant. You have to make a wish. Nothing's ever in your way. Scoring every shot you make. No, you've